more. Thousands of Arizonans have already joined Arizona's largest credit union, Desert Financial, located inside the Payson Walmart.
Well, good Wednesday morning, 3 minutes past 10 o'clock. We're at 63 degrees under sunny skies this morning here in Payson. And in with me this morning at the KRIM studios on West Frontier for Community Spotlight, we have District 1 County Supervisor Steve Christensen with us this morning. Steve, how you doing?
Very good. Thank you, Randy, and hello to RIM Country.
Yeah, there you go. Boy, there's just never enough time for us to talk about all the things that I know we'd all like to. But just to start off with, I mean, it seems like most everything that I know that we had in the news today also had to do with the fact that fire season is knocking on the door here, and we're just about to get back into that. And folks with the county and a lot of different entities around Gila County, you all had your annual meeting to try and get ready for what's about to come.
Yeah, we did. I hosted the annual preseason fire meeting. This is something that Supervisor Klein, Tommy Martin Klein,
good old Tommy.
Tommy Klein Martin.
There you go.
Yeah, she instituted that about 8 years ago. So it's a really great meeting. So we get the fire department people together from Star Valley, Payson, Whispering Pines, Pine and Strawberry, all that, and get them together along with the Forest Service and some of our own people from Public Works and APS, SRP. There's a lot of different angles there. We come together, we talk about what we need to be prepared, what each department could use. Is there any improvements that we could make from last year? Right. So we did that March 25th over at Messengers. They have a really great room over there.
They do.
Yeah. And so we did that. It was a great turnout, 50, 60 people.
Well, so everybody just kind of getting their plans together, and I mean, it's, this ain't their first rodeo. They've been at this for a long time, but there's a lot of moving parts to this equation. I know one of the things that your predecessor, Tommy Martin, worked on and really did a stellar job was getting all of these dip tanks all over RIM country pre-positioned so that helicopters, when they're fighting a fire, wouldn't have to go so far to get water. They could make shorter, faster runs that way, and it really turned out to be a huge success. Who helps maintain all of that stuff?
Well, the Forest Service looks after it and this and that. Right. Now, I got to say that the bladders, they call them bladders, and they're like a giant pillow full of water.
Right.
And so there's dozens of them around, and yes, Tommy put that together, and that's great. Those are aging now. They from the Iraq War, basically. They're Army surplus.
Well, and just sitting out in the sun, the UV degradation and stuff's bound to be taking a toll on them.
Right, and there's really none left to get. So we're looking at options of what we can do to start replacing them. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to investigate grant money for that because it's going to cost some money. And we're going to try and get some tanks that helicopters can dip into that we can refill, and then keep the bladders that we can keep and just slowly go. And that was a very lengthy topic that we talked about at the meeting, that it was a concern by all that we have those available, because it's been very nice to be able to go up to, say, Mead Ranch or Rim Trail or someplace like that and have water readily available right there without having to drive all the way back to town or something.
Well, I know even down in the lower elevations down in Town Basin, in Pumpkin Center, I mean, you're only a few minute flight away from Roosevelt Lake to dip. Yet they do have a dip station about halfway between the two, which again just cuts down that flight time. So
quick action. You got to have quick action.
Got to love it. And there's a bunch of those dip tanks all over the place. So that's obviously there's a lot of figuring to do on that as we move forward.
A lot of figuring, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of cost. So we're seeking grant money to help us with that.
Cool. And from everything that I know we've been hearing through the U.S. Forest Service, their word specifically in a news story we had earlier this week was it's not just going to be a potentially bad fire season. The specific words that they were using is potentially devastating fire season, just because of a lack of precipitation thus far, and so I mean they're positioning themselves to be, well, I don't know, as cautious as possible at this point.
Yes, very true. So some of the questions that came up were, when are we going to close the forest?
Right.
And so that's open-ended right now.
And an annual question, yeah.
And usually our fires start in June. Mm-hmm. But here we are in April, and the fire danger is very high.
Yeah, we just had one a few weeks ago down in Town Basin that, boy, definitely got our attention. It was only a few hundred yards from us.
We do need to be very careful and pray for rain. So I mentioned earlier that the bladders might be maintained by the Forest Service. I think I misspoke. I think that the county does that, so that's what we do there.
Right.
So we need to be careful going into this fire season, and it's not a guarantee we're going to have a fire, but the potential is there. They make measurements in some of our wood trees and stuff, like the oaks are lower in moisture right now than normal. And previous years in drought. So we're experiencing a drought. The manzanitas are very low in water content as well. So all of that, along with heat and wind and dryness and fuel load, all of that is spells potential with a capital P. So
scary.
The governor just passed, should I say the legislature and the governor signed a $24.5 million annual budget to hire or put together crews of inmates to go out into our forests.
Right.
And they're hopeful to address 20,000 acres a year. And that's a positive thing. But when you consider there's millions of acres, that's like taking a small bite out of an elephant and expecting to swallow him whole eventually. It just takes a long time to address those things.
One of the things that's kind of encouraging about that process, though, is, I mean, those who have been around here for a long time, like yourself and myself, remember that the Perryville crew that perished during the Dude Fire back in 1990. And since then, more and more of these inmate crews have been trained up, but it gives them a lot of great training, and it gives them kind of a step up when they do get released from prison to be able to maybe go to work for, hotshot crews or something like that. And so that's a possibility. But so they're looking at just expanding the number of prisoners that are used for this kind of thing. Is that the general gist?
Well, this is a new budget item. It's a new bill. So, and I think they're looking at 700 firefighters.
Wow, that's a big number.
Yeah, it's a big number.
Well, and every little bit helps.
And really, it's to clean the floor stuff, to help, tend to the garden. Really, we have a very disheveled garden, and then once you clean it up, you have to continue to clean it up because it's, we need to thin it, but there's always pushback on lawsuits on thinning, taking trees down, logging. Right. There's so many common sense things that we need to do are quite often restricted.
Now, and just because we're on that topic, on a side topic, relative to that, was there much discussion at this most recent fire season meeting relative to the For Forest Restoration Initiative and how that kind of becomes a factor in all of this?
There wasn't a lot, if any, discussion of that I recall. It is another aspect, and I'm on that board.
Right.
Okay, and if people are not familiar with that, there's been 4 forests, the Tonto included in those 4, that have that are working together to try and work on 30 to 50,000 acres a year.
Yeah, for so many years, it was we stopped every fire and all of that, and the forest as a result has become overgrown. We're now a fire that used to just be able to pass through the forest just on the forest floor now gets branched up into the crown or up into the top of the trees and can wipe out the whole ecosystem. So it's become kind of a crazy bunch of stuff.
It's a very dangerous situation, and we have to manage what we have as people. It's just the right thing to do. You manage your money, you manage your life, your health, and you manage your garden. We need to manage the creation the same way. We need to just manage it, not let it go, because it does lead to catastrophic fires. In 1990, we had the Dude Fire.
Right.
Okay, so we'll do the math. 31 years ago. Okay,
time flies
and
when you're
we were
having
here
fun.
at that time. That was the largest fire in Arizona at the time, and I believe it was 28,000 acres.
If even that, it was minute compared to like the Radio Chedesky and some of those.
Yeah, well, we're in the 500,000 or more acres, right? And it just sweeps through, devastates the landscape, destroys, the watershed. You got all this mudslides now. It's just we can't manage by not managing.
Right.
That's not smart.
And I know, yesterday in the news we had a little bit of information from relative to the bushfire down in the Tano Basin area, with a lot of that area being burned down there. There are some areas that they're closing off right now because of the potential for when we do get some monsoons and stuff like that for landslides and everything. So a lot of different variables. Another area that's been in the news a lot over the past few years in a sense, with some of the same concerns, is the Fossil Springs area. And I heard that you've been also focused on that recently as far as what we're going to do. And for people that aren't familiar, the road that travels down into the Fossil Springs area from Strawberry was closed off a number of years ago, and now for people that want to recreate down in Fossil Springs, they have to come in off of Highway 260 down more in the Verde Valley and come in from that direction. But it's presented quite a problem for our first responders who have to respond to people that get injured, or we've had drowning victims down there and things like that. And I know the Pine Strawberry Fire Department is often a first responder into that, and having to just hike all the way down there rather than being able to hop on some ATVs or Jeeps or whatever makes a big difference as far as their response time. Has there been any new progress on this at all?
Well, there hasn't been very much progress, and so I'm going to be working hard on that one. So Gary Morris is very involved in that, and I've met with him. He's explained really what's going on down there. It's really a public health hazard.
True. So
it's a wonderful area. It is in the forest. It's just west of Strawberry, but it's a hike in, and it's a difficult place to get to. So a lot of over the last 5 years, there's been 7 people die. There's been over 700 rescues.
Is that all? Just 700?
Yes. Now,
wow.
So this was a system of roads that existed that APS maintained because APS had, I believe it was their very first hydroelectric plant down closer to the Verde River, and they utilized Fossil Creek to power that turbine.
Childs and Irving there. Yeah.
Yes, and so that's all been eliminated. That's all been taken out. Everything's been restored, and now it's a beautiful place, but the roads are impassable. And so they don't want the public driving the roads, and that's fine. We just want to get access for emergencies. And it's proving to be quite a challenge working with certain government agencies to get that done so that our rescuers are not having to go 4.5 miles down into the canyon on foot and get someone rescued out of there. It takes hours and hours, 6-7 hours to do it. And how would you like your wife or your child who's injured, who's really in a desperate situation, to have to wait that long when they could reduce that to basically 30 minutes?
And I've done that hike a few times, and it's there's a big elevation change from where you get off the road there, off the Fossil Creek Road in Strawberry down to the springs, and boy, to be able to bring someone back up even on a litter basket wheel, that's that's just not much fun.
You can't believe how bad the trail is. It's not a trail. I mean, it's just a very rugged, washed out mess.
Yeah.
And we just want to maintain it, and that's all we want to do, maintain it.
So some interesting, challenges for you as you, get up to speed with, of course, I know a lot of this stuff has been familiar for you because your father was a District 1 supervisor for many years, and so, some of these things, aren't new news. It's just our latest attempt to try and figure out how to deal with it.
Same challenges. Different year.
Right.
And the fire thing is one of the things I think we're going to be living with for a very long time. I don't think we're ever going to get to a place where we go, we're all done with that now.
Yeah.
So it's just a continuous, constant thing.
And
we need money for that. We need the county can't afford to do all that, and
that's where the real challenge comes in, because Gila County, last I heard, was only had 3 or 4% of the land here privately held that you get tax revenue from, and the Forest Service isn't paying you a whole lot of money.
Nope. If any.
If any.
Yeah. The Forest Service and government property and tribal properties consist of about 96% of our county, which we do not receive taxes on.
So that's a unique challenge.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, it's kind of encouraging that Gila County's done such a great job when it comes to getting the vaccines out for the COVID-19 stuff. Little old Gila County kind of leading the state.
Little old Gila County is. I'm so proud of Gila County and what we've done. So our health department and emergency management, Michael O'Driscoll is the head of that. But he has a very good team. And we're over 32,600 and some in the county that have been vaccinated, either with both or one. And that brings us to over 56% of the county. Also,
huge.
Another number is 73% of all 65-year-olds or older have been vaccinated that want to have the vaccination. And that, in my opinion, still leads the country. We're more than double the country's rate.
And that's the biggest risk category as far as age.
Yes.
And so, I mean, wow, talk about stellar numbers. That's
Yep.
wonderful.
And we keep knocking it out of the park. It's still ongoing. If you want a vaccination, Gila County can get it done for you.
Right. And I know I have. I would just suggest to people, don't come crying to me the day after your second dose.
Yeah.
That day was a bit of a rear end dragger for me. But now, one of the other questions or concerns that seems to come up periodically, and I know that you've been working on it again, is that of broadband internet. I know there was an interest in trying to get some redundancy in here. And speaking of which, currently the only fiber optic trunk line that comes here comes up that Fossil Creek Trail, up from the Verde Valley.
Another reason to maintain the road.
Yeah, kind of like hello.
Yeah. If that breaks, can you imagine? If that breaks down there, could be weeks before they repair it.
Oh yeah, and the few times where there's been washouts and stuff and it went down, I mean, it's impacted business, it's impacted government, it's impacted,
Safety.
just about everybody.
Didn't we have someone pass away needlessly because they couldn't make phone calls?
I believe there was
An
something
accident?
like that, if I recall correctly.
It was an accident. And so, no, we need redundancy. So Sparklight's another company that's come into town. They're coming from, is it Cholo?
Yeah, coming down from the east there.
Yeah, and they've run a trunk line into Payson. They had, I think, a $19 million grant from the federal government to bring it to the schools and the libraries. I understand now they're starting to offer it to different businesses along their route.
Right.
And so that's good. Does that create redundancy? Not to the level it needs to be. APS is also running a massive amount of fiber up from the valley. It's not here yet, but they're trying to connect all of their power plants and all this. And so there would be a giant loop that started in Phoenix, goes north in a general sense to Flagstaff and loops around over to Joseph City and back down into Tempe through Payson, etc. Right. Okay, so that's just a general thing. The thing that has not been done yet is the loop that comes through Payson. That is in the process, though.
Right.
And it's going to be aerial. They're not burying it. It's going to be running on their existing system. So it shouldn't be too long to get that into town. Now, will that be redundant? Sure, it will. How do we hook into it? Do we hook into it? What's it going to cost to hook into it? And so those are all things we're discussing, trying to figure that out. It's really an exciting and almost emerging future communications. I mean, it's just going to be awesome. I understand that each fiber can carry more than 25 terabytes, which is like whatever, 25 million
That's a bunch.
Bytes. Two of these little fibers, and they're barely bigger than your hair, would satisfy all the needs in rim country, Payson, everything.
So, I mean, and that, I know I've heard a lot of conjecture over the past few years that if we finally had the redundancy where we had the ample amounts of bandwidth and that type of thing, there's a lot of other businesses that might actually consider relocating to Payson, but they need to have that guaranteed bandwidth to make it just make sense for them.
Well, communication is the future.
Sure.
And if we don't have that in place, then forget getting a university, forget getting a techie company here.
Right.
And, I believe that COVID has shown us that we don't need to be in high-rise offices in big cities. People can work from their homes, they can work from smaller venues. And yeah, why would they not want to live in rim country, but they have to have communication available to them?
It's really exciting because, we are seeing progress finally. I mean, for a long time there, it was all just conjecture and talk, but we're actually seeing, progress, things being physically done now. And at a time where, too, I know with a number of different, even local businesses that I'm familiar with here, have really kind of changed their business model a little bit as a result of COVID-19, saying that, hey, we really can have people work from home, and this really is working. And
Yes.
and so now that, maybe things are a bit more relaxed because more people have been vaccinated and everything, they're still looking at, maybe we'll keep on doing things this way because we can actually have a smaller real estate footprint and be more, profitable, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
So, I mean, it seems like, all the pieces and parts are coming together at just the right time.
Yep. I honestly believe that it is fundamentally going to change the way we conduct business, and the whole office environment and going to work and all those kind of things are all going to change. Well,
now, so as far as District 1 goes, I know that there's there's different concerns with each of the three districts in Gila County,
Yeah.
And all makes sense. But as far as the concerns that you've been around here for years and you're familiar with, but now as county supervisor, are these really the big things that we're looking at right now? As far as, again, we've talked this morning about the impending fire season, the Fossil Springs road ingress and egress question, and then the broadband. Are those really kind of like the maybe top three concerns that you're focused on right now?
Well, yeah, I haven't really ranked them that way, but they are of a concern. They're on the radar. They're right there, talked about often.
Right.
We are talking about trying to get grant money that's available now coming from the federal government for COVID relief to businesses that have been hurt and other people that have not been able to pay their rent, or they're losing their home, or they're way behind on utilities. And, some of the laws that were created through this process have not allowed evictions to occur or the shutting off of utilities, but that doesn't mean that those debts are not still there. And so we have to start identifying that. We have some money coming to us, and we have to start looking at that. And so that's something, I don't know how that's all going to play out or how much we're going to get. Infrastructure, there's going to be a lot of money for infrastructure, I hope. And we're going to be able to improve some of our dirt roads that are Forest Service roads so that they could be used for evacuation purposes, fire personnel coming in and out. And it just makes sense to get some of those fixed.
And that makes a lot of sense because, a lot of people don't realize, depending on where a fire actually starts, I mean, that can really be a major challenge as far as getting people evacuated.
Well, and animals.
Yeah.
We got we're in horse country.
Sure.
So you have a road called the 64 road, the control road. It actually connects Highway 87 and Highway 260. That's a nice bypass if it needs to be, if we can't get something going. So all these things need to be improved, but we need money to do it. And so we're looking for that money. We're hopeful. I've been talking with both of our U.S. senators about the concerns that we have. I've also talked with Paul Gosar, who's our congressman for this area. And so these are all things that are on the radar. We are talking about it, and we're moving forward, hopefully. The bridge down where you live in Tonto Basin is going to be built by ADOT, so we have the money available. We have some match money that we need to pay for, but we're waiting on a study to be done. Whenever you build a big project like that, and it's on, say, Forest Service land or whatever, then and it crosses a river, and there's a bird involved, or a salamander, or a fish, then all of these studies got to be done, or any, say, indigenous people, things like that. So all those studies need to be done. It delays the project. I hope that it doesn't delay it so much that the project price goes up, because we can't afford that. We have a limited amount of money.
It's interesting in that prior to acquiring the federal funding, at that time the environmental impact studies were done, but now there's a new one that has to do with migratory birds.
Right.
And last time I checked, migratory birds have wings and they fly. So I was a little concerned about how the width of a bridge there is going to really affect things.
Well, even an ostrich could get out of the way.
Even a one-legged ostrich could probably do it.
This is what happens when you have a lot of regulation. And so when people talk about reducing regulation, it helps businesses. Reducing regulation frees things up. And that's true, because more regulations generally means the project will cost more and take longer. And so all of this is probably being done because of environmental studies, about endangered species studies, and all those things, migratory bird studies.
Right. It's going to be an interesting one to watch, but hopefully, as you say, hopefully they can get things wrapped up and get moving, because the longer we wait, the higher the price is going to be.
Right, and we can't blow through what we have.
Yeah.
It's already like a $24 million project.
And living on the other side of the creek, trust me, I'm ready for that bridge to go in.
The bridge to Randy.
I just want to get rid of the lifted truck and get a more economical vehicle.
Well, and that's also going to create opportunities for people buying property over there and developing it.
Since that was announced, actually, that the federal funding had been acquired, there's a number of private parcels on the east side of the creek there that are being snatched up quickly.
Right.
I've been kind of I mean, not shocked, but I find it interesting that, people are seeing the handwriting on the wall.
Sure, there could be a lot of growth there. That's a really nice area. I know that may not sound great to the residents that are already there, but it will. Healthy things usually grow. So healthy children grow, healthy communities grow. And so
Amen.
you just need to manage that.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, we're about out of time. If people have other questions about what's going on in Gila County and specifically District 1, what would you suggest they do?
If they want to contact me, there's a couple of ways to do that. You can look on the website and find me, but my phone number is 928-474-7101.
Wow.
So that's 474-7101. You can call, get to my office, and I'll return your call or set up a meeting, anything like that. You can also find me on Facebook for the first time in my life. My daughter is my press secretary,
right?
And so she's handling all of that. I've never had a.
You're
Facebook
not much
page.
of a Facebook fan.
No, I'm not a Facebook,
Yeah,
or I don't really do that. So I'm not involved in that. I guess it's just my generation. I've just never felt a need to do that.
I hear you.
And so, but now I do have a need to do that. So if you just look on Facebook, Supervisor Steve Christensen.
There you go.
And then you'll see what I'm doing. And so we're posting photographs of different events I've been to, to the Iron Horse Rodeo event this last Saturday. And that's a great thing.
And they had a bunch of people show up for that.
Quite a bunch of people,
Yeah.
and motorcycles and leather and
Right.
everything. It was
All the good
exciting.
stuff, yeah.
And so anyway, they raise money for veterans and helping veterans and scholarships. So there's lots of little things in our community that are always trying to raise a little bit of money to help other people. And so I want to be a part of that. And so I was there that Saturday. And so other events that I've been to, rallies, went down on the Beeline the other day and held up a sign that said, protect our free speech,
There
our
you go.
First Amendment,
Yep.
and little things like that. So
We were doing the same thing in Tonto Basin the same
Yeah,
day. It's
great.
all good stuff. Well, keep up the good work, and thank you very much for coming in here once a month and keeping us posted on all the good things you're working on.
Very welcome. Thank you, Randy.
You betcha. And thank you for tuning in and listening this morning to Community Spotlight on KRIM. We got to get you back to more of your favorite music. Have a number of different tunes to get to here. Matter of fact, going to hear from Meatloaf, Queen, Sam and Dave, Chicago, and a whole bunch more. But first, a quick look at Rim Country weather.
Now here is the KRIM weather forecast for Payson and surrounding areas. I'm nowcast meteorologist Jim Vaughn. For today, mostly sunny skies, high in the mid-70s. Southwest winds at around 5 miles per hour. Tonight, mostly clear, low in the upper 40s. Light